Is it time to panic about the recent struggles in the secondary? Let's debate on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You were locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, PK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Will Steve Sarkisian overthink his offense? We'll get to that. Plus, we recap Texas basketball season opener against Duke. But first, are the recent struggles in the Texas secondary a cause for concern? The numbers would say yes. This past Saturday against Vanderbilt, Texas gave up 365 yards passing to Diego Pavia. Going into that game, Pavia's previous high watermark for passing yards against an SEC opponent, 198. He was averaging just $166 per game in SEC play. He more than doubled that against the Longhorns. 2 weeks ago in Starkville, Texas gave up 381 passing yards to Blake Shapen and 4 touchdowns, both season highs for him. His average in Mississippi State's other 4 SEC games, 220. So 161 yards above his league average against the Horns, and those 4 touchdowns as well. What is going on with the secondary? Now, I think everyone's first response would be BK, our All-American, do-it-all safety, who's the heart and soul of this defense, hasn't played in the last 2 weeks. Cut him a little bit of slack. And my response to that would be, you're right. But should it lead to Blake Shapen and a run-first quarterback like Diego Pavia looking like Heisman winners against you? I think the answer to that is no. And the bigger problem is, unfortunately, it's not just these last 2 games where the Texas pass defense has had issues. The SEC opener in the Swamp, Michael Taaffe played in that one. DJ Lagway threw for 298 yards, against Texas. He also completed 75% of his passes, both of those season highs for him. Of course, that was the lone SEC loss for Texas. So that's 3 games out of 5 that the Longhorns have played in conference play that Texas has allowed the opposing quarterback to have his best passing output of the year. Cutter Boley, by the way, Kentucky's quarterback, had his second most yards in an SEC game against Texas. He also completed 79.5% of his passes. That's a season high. So the only conference game where the Longhorn secondary has looked really good from start to finish, Oklahoma, where John Mateer just had nothing going. And I'm not going to complain about that win at all. But the other 4 games, this secondary has left a lot to be desired. There have been yards, there have been big plays, there have been touchdowns. There's been a lot to be had against the Longhorn defense since the start of SEC season. For some more stats, the Texas Longhorns ranked 13th in the SEC in passing yards per game allowed. Those are both full season numbers and in conference games only. They're also 92nd in the country in passing yards per game. It's a far cry where Texas was as a pass defense a year ago. The Longhorns were 7th in the country in that metric. Even after the playoff, where they let up some yards against Arizona State and Ohio State, they still finished in the top 10 in America in pass defense. Again, right now they are 92nd, just inside the top 100. So going back to the initial question, is it time to panic? I'm not ready yet, but that's only because they're getting healthy in the secondary. That's literally the only reason at this point. Manny Muhammad missed the Florida game and a decent bit of the Vandy game. Talked about Michael Taaffe missing the last 2 games. Jelani McDonald missed just about all of the Vanderbilt game. Those 3 guys are really good players. I know everyone says next man up. It is a cool mantra, but the next man up usually isn't as good as the starter. That's why the starters are the starters and the backups are the backups. Your starters are out there for a reason. I mean, Michael Taaffe is an All-American. Manny Muhammad is an all-conference caliber player. I think Jelani McDonald is a Sunday guy as well. Your backups just aren't them. And Texas isn't the only team in the conference in the country that has a drop-off from the starters to the backups. The safety play against Vanderbilt without Michael Taaffe and without Jelani McDonald for the most part was really bad. I mean, Xavier Filsaime and Derek Williams Jr. looked out of place, out of sorts, out of whack for large portions of the game. And I know officiating was a disaster. It has been well documented on this channel. Vanderbilt shouldn't have had the chance to come back the way that they did in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, but that doesn't give the secondary an excuse to just mail it in. And when your safeties are bad, everybody else pays the price. I thought the corners were fine against the Commodores. Not great, but fine. But the safety play was rough. I mean, covering the deepest man in cover 2 when an opponent is trying to furiously rally, that is part of the safety job description. You can't let Eli Stowers get open for that 67-yard touchdown in that situation. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? If you told me that Michael Taaffe and Jelani McDonald were out for the season, I would be very nervous about this secondary because I didn't like what I saw from Filsaime or Williams at all. But if those two guys can stay on the field, I think Texas will be fine. I'll also add this. The Longhorns did just finish a stretch of 5 games in 5 weeks, and they played a ton of snaps in a few of those games. We've got numbers to back it up. The Texas defense has played 368 snaps since the start of October. That is the 3rd most in college football. They've been out there a lot. So the bye week is coming at the perfect time for guys to come back from injury, but also for guys just to take a few days off. And also for Dwayne Akina, who is often regarded as one of the best defensive backs coaches in college football history, opportunity for him to coach up some of these kids. There are some folks questioning Akina a little bit. Hey, what happened under Mac Brown was great, but doesn't really have any bearing on what's happening with this team in 2025. He's got to earn his current paycheck and get these dudes playing a little better. I still have faith that he will, but obviously some things to clean up between now and the Georgia game in a week and a half. Not every issue is on the players. Some of the issues are on the scheme, and that's a Pete Kwiatkowski and a Dwayne Akina and a Mark Orfe issue. I can't stand the prevent defense. So much soft zone from Texas down the stretch this past Saturday, just giving Diego Pavia easy throws between the hashes or short to the outside. He doesn't have an NFL arm. He can't make deep out throws. He can't make those long digs to the opposite hash. Texas just gave him easy pitches and catches down the stretch, and it's like you weren't doing that early on. Why are you letting him do that late? So some of that is outside of the player's control. That's just the staff not doing a good enough job scouting and coming up with the game plan to try to minimize the strengths of the other player. That was weird. And there were too many missed assignments as well in the secondary. That ultimately falls on coaching. You can blame the players, but they didn't look like they were coached up on where they were supposed to be. You know, talked about the Eli Stowers 67-yard touchdown grab in the fourth. How about the Stowers touchdown right before halftime? After Texas called a timeout, to set up their defense, Vanderbilt was in the exact same look before the timeout and after the timeout. It was the exact same personnel grouping, meaning that Texas should have been ready for whatever play that Vanderbilt was calling. And instead, horrible alignment. Diego Pavia is able to throw to his first read over the middle, an easy throw to a wide open Eli Stowers, and then your 2 safeties missed tackles inside the 5-yard line. Like in that situation, that little time on the clock right before halftime, you have to take away the easiest throws on the field first. If Diego Pavia can throw a dime in the back corner of the end zone on a fade route, then, hey, you tip your cap. Congratulations. Great throw. That's how it goes sometimes. But that isn't what happened there. Teams are throwing the ball against Texas a lot. They realize there's a weakness there, and they also know that Texas has the number 2 run defense in America. Teams are foolish if they continuously try to run it into the teeth of this Texas defense. So Texas opponents testing this pass defense isn't going to change. Texas needs to change to get these things right because Gunnar Stockton, Taylon Green, Marcel Reed, those are better than some of the quarterbacks who have lit you up so far. I will say this, if you're looking for a beacon of hope, despite the overall lack of positivity in this opening segment, look at the 2023 Texas Longhorns. Team that won the Big 12, team that made it to the college football playoff, despite having a secondary that ranked 105th in the country in passing yards allowed. Secondary was an issue all game long, yet the Horns went 11-1, made the conference title game, won the conference title game, made it to the college football playoff. Now, Big 12 football isn't the same as SEC football. I think we all know that. But if everything else around you is working, if the run defense stays elite, if Texas continues to lead the country in sacks, and hey, the offense looks like it's found a little something, then maybe you don't need to be elite in the secondary to get into the playoff, but you were playing with fire, giving up 381 yards, 350 yards. If you keep allowing quarterbacks to have career days against you, you're flirting with disaster like Molly Hatchet. That's got to change. It would sure help this team's chances if their secondary can get closer to elite status, but I think they've got to be better to get back into the playoff and obviously make a run in the playoff as well. What say you? What's your level of concern with this Texas pass defense right now? We'll take it on a scale of 1 to 10 in the comments below. All right, let's go to the Texas offense. This Longhorn offense clearly has an identity. The question is, will Steve Sarkisian stick with it? If the answer is yes, we may be cooking with bacon grease. I'll tell you what I mean next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, the NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or if you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets from everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot at even bigger payouts. More ways to play, more ways to win than ever before. It keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team is making that late fourth quarter push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And also a shout out to Doer jeans. Oh man, I finally got my hands on a pair of Doer jeans and I absolutely love them. I've only had them for a couple of days and I've been wearing them all the time. I went out to dinner with the girl last night, wore them. She said I looked great. I felt great. That's the beauty of Doer. It combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. I even wore them on a walk earlier today. I couldn't tell y'all the last time I've worn jeans on a walk. They are so comfortable and they look great too. They feel stretchy, but they don't look stretchy. That's the key. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. You want to look good and be comfortable? Boom. Doer has you covered. Trust me. Once y'all try these, they will become your go-to. So get a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for somebody else. Go to shopdoer.com/LockedOnLonghorns. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnLonghorns, and you're going to get 15% off your first order. Again, shopdoer.com/LockedOnLonghorns. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Let's further break down what Texas did right on offense in the win over Vanderbilt because, well, it was the best offensive game that we've seen from this team so far this year. And while some card-carrying members of Longhorn Nation are asking, where has that been? I'm just going to ask, can we see more of that? I'll even say, please, Coach Sark. Texas scored 34 points against a Vandy defense that came into Austin with a top 10 scoring defense in the nation. And I know I said this earlier this week, but it bears repeating. The Longhorns scored on 6 of their 8 real possessions against Vandy. They had a missed field goal and a punt on their other 2. 0 turnovers. Again, only 1 punt. They got into the scoring zone 7 out of 8 times when they had the ball against Vandy. That's really good. So the questions now are, number 1, what worked? Number 2, will Steve Sarkisian stick with what worked? We'll start with number 2. If it's felt like this offense has had a different game plan in every game this year, it's because it kind of has. Perhaps the primest example of this is the 2-game stretch between Oklahoma and Kentucky. Texas had that awesome second half against the Sooners where they went zone heavy in the run game and they went quick pass heavy through the air. And it was like, oh man, there it is. We found our identity. This worked. We just got to one of the best defenses in the country and we blew them out because of that. Let's do this again against Kentucky. And then 7 days later in Lexington, it was, no, let's drop back and send our receivers down the field on long developing routes and try a bunch of different run concepts and try to confuse Kentucky with a bunch of different looks instead of doing what worked. And of course, it led to a lot of problems on offense. Texas had 8 first downs and needed overtime to beat a bad Kentucky team. And we were all a bit stunned by that pretty drastic change. But unfortunately, because of that, you have to ask the question about Sark sticking with the game plan that just worked. He's a confident guy. He thinks his teams and players can run any offense that he calls. And look, the thought of coming up with different game plans to attack different defenses every Saturday, it's a very normal one to have. It means you're doing your homework every week. I like that. Unfortunately, this offense hasn't proven the ability to do everything in Steve Sarkisian's playbook. It just feels like they get confused and or lost when asked to do a bunch of different things, especially up front on the offensive line. So my advice to Coach Sark, as the fine folks of Dunder Mifflin once said, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. The identity against Vanderbilt, I hope y'all don't hate me for this comp, but it kind of felt like Greg Davis, Colt McCoy era Texas football. Zone blocking, perimeter screens, heavier dose of that West Coast offense, the quarterback being asked to make quick reads and throw it quickly with the anticipation that his receivers are going to be in the right place. All of that rather than waiting for slower developing patterns to get open behind shaky protection. I know Horns fans dunk on Greg Davis, but he coordinated some of the best offenses in school history. We all know how good Colt McCoy was. So, yeah, I don't expect the game plan to look the exact same against Georgia as it did against Vanderbilt. And let's be real, for as good as Vandy is, they're not Georgia. Georgia's DBs aren't going to miss that many tackles in space or just anywhere. And the Texas offensive line isn't going to win up front as much as they did against the Lionel Richies when they're playing Georgia. Just the unfortunate truth. So the plan probably has to be tweaked, but there are a few things that I really hope carry over. And this goes back to the first question I asked. What worked? For starters, the offensive line. This one's easy. Don't change your starting 5 up front. I know I just mentioned the O-line's going to struggle a bit more against Georgia, but the 5 offensive linemen that we saw play every snap against Vanderbilt was the best starting 5 that we've seen up front this year. Cole Hudson at left guard, Connor Robertson at center. That experiment worked. Hudson wasn't amazing. He was a lot better than what you were getting from Nick Brooks or Connor Stroh. Don't mess with that. Keep it rolling there. More personnel talk while we're on the subject. How about more 11 personnel? Ryan Wingo, Emmett Mosley, DeAndre Moore, Parker Livingston. All of those guys are better weapons in the passing game than any tight end that you have. Jack Andrews is good. I'm fine with him playing. And I realize that Sark is always going to have at least one tight end out there, and that's fine. But all 4 of those wide receivers are much better options in the passing game than any tight end not wearing number 88. So you can include Jack Andrews. He's fine. The other tight ends, they're just not difference makers right now. I think those receivers are. We've gone over the success numbers a bunch of times. 11 personnel versus 12 personnel. The difference is ginormous in terms of success for this offense. By the way, Texas also ran it more effectively out of 11 personnel versus 12 against Vandy. 4.3 yards a carry with just 1 tight end, 3.5 with 2. Spreading to run has worked. Also, the emphasis on getting the ball out quickly may be more important than anything that we've just talked about. Helps the offensive line, and Arch Manning has shown the ability lately to get the ball out on time and on target on those quick throws. And I will add this too, on top of everything else. I know the move to put A.J. Milwee in the coach's box has paid dividends. I think every Texas fan realizes that, and the head coach himself has openly talked about that. But I think the biggest change in the Longhorn offense has come from Sark himself. He now trusts Arch Manning. And beyond that, I'll say he's even relying on Arch Manning. There are more plays now in which the quarterback is like actually in command of reading the defense and deciding who gets the ball rather than it being predetermined via play design. Manning has shown a great ability to read the field, navigate the pocket, and reset to throw accurately at times to his second and third reads. He has matured so much. He couldn't do that earlier in the year. Now he can. His coach now realizes that, and he's letting him take over the reins. He's taking the training wheels off and letting Arch Manning go. You're seeing less plays where Arch is turning his back to the defense on play action. There's still some play action, but it's usually super quick. And again, it doesn't force Arch to turn his back to the defense or to his wide receivers. Those kind of plays usually are predetermined throws. Since they take longer, they weren't working with the offensive line, with Arch, with everybody. Now, again, the quicker stuff where Arch can decide himself where he wants to go with the football, that's been great. I'll give Emmett Mosley some credit too. His infusion in the offense has helped a lot. He's seemingly always in the right place at the right time. He is really freaking good, and he's super reliable too. But what Arch Manning has done lately, there aren't a lot of quarterbacks who can do that at this high of a level, 11 games into their career. I should say 11 starts into their career, but it's working. And that's what I hope Texas keeps going. That's the identity. Relying on quick reads and accurate throws from Arch Manning. Have that be your primary way that you move the football. That's going to lay a strong foundation for what this offense can be. It helps the running game. And at some point, I think it's going to allow this offense to reintegrate some deep shots down the field. If you can execute a spread passing game, if you can avoid turnovers, if you could play good defense, this is a team that can make the playoff and maybe make some noise when they get to the playoff. So those things that we saw against Vanderbilt, that we saw in the second half against Oklahoma, more of that, please. Do what your offense does well. I know you're going to have wrinkles for Georgia. You should, but stick with your strengths. Maximize your strengths. I think that'll go a long way into this Texas offense continuing to look good in these final 3 games of the regular season. What say you? Do you agree with me? Do you want more change? Do you want more of the same? Would love your thoughts in the comments below on this Texas offense. All right, one segment to go on a Wednesday show. We will recap Texas basketball's season opener against Duke coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Back here on Locked On Longhorns, final segment for a Wednesday show. The Texas men's basketball team dropped its season opener in Charlotte last night to 6th-ranked Duke, 75-60, the final score. Texas actually led this game at halftime. It was 33-32, good guys at the break. Texas trailed by as many as 9 points in the first half. They clawed all the way back, somehow took a lead going into the break, but Duke opened up the second half on a 10-0 run, and for a while, Texas kept getting up off the mat. The Longhorns actually, once again, were able to cut the deficit to 3 with just about 9.5 minutes to play. It looked like maybe they were going to pull off a shocking upset on night 1, but after that 9.5-minute mark, it was all Duke. The Blue Devils went on an 8-0 run. They pushed the lead to double digits. I don't think Texas got it back to single digits again in the final 7-8 minutes of the ball game, and Duke ultimately gets the 15-point win. Big takeaways. Well, we'll start with the good in the first half. Why Texas was able to hang with the Blue Devils for the first 20 minutes. The Longhorns dominated the glass. They were plus 10 in rebounds in the first half. The defense was great as well. They held Duke to less than 40% shooting, and Cameron Boozer, the 5-star recruit, son of longtime NBA vet Carlos Boozer, didn't score a point in the first half. He was 0 for 7 shooting, top 3 recruit in the country, the true freshman, diaper dandy, as Dickie V would call him. Texas kept him in check, but in the second half, Boozer got going. Now, he really just started running into people, and the refs kept calling fouls. A big storyline in the second half, and why Duke was able to take over and then run away and hide. They just kept getting to the charity stripe. Duke was in the bonus before the under 12, and Duke was in the double bonus with more than 11 minutes left in the second half. And because of all of the free throws, Texas couldn't get out in transition at all. There weren't a lot of missed shots for Duke to where Texas could get the rebounds and run. There weren't a lot of turnovers created by the Texas defense in the second half. You don't want to be playing in the half court against anybody. Like, that's a bad recipe against any team, but especially a team as good as Duke. You don't want to have to slow things down and constantly rely on your half-court offense to get you buckets. That's just a recipe for disaster, and ultimately that's what happened. Texas did foul a lot. I don't want to put all of this on the stripes. There were a lot of questionable calls, and it, credit Duke. I think they realized that the refs were just calling everything, and they started putting their head down and driving, and they kept getting to the free throw line, and that helped. So it was a problem for Texas at times last year. They couldn't do a good enough job defending without fouling. It's a one-game sample size against a really good team, but obviously Duke shot more than 30 free throws as a team last night. Not sustainable for Texas in games against good teams. It was 22 free throws for Duke in the second half alone. That was tough. Some positives for Texas. How about Dalen Swain? Really like him. The Xavier transfer, who of course followed Sean Miller over from Cincinnati. Very impressed by his play on both ends of the floor. He led Texas with 16 points, scored at all three levels. Jordan Pope off the bench, 15 points. Didn't do a whole lot in the first half, but made 3 big threes in the second half to kind of keep Texas in it. He's a very streaky shooter. He shoots a lot. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, it can get ugly, but he did get on a little bit of a heater for Texas, which was good to see. Matas Vokatitis, the big man transfer from Florida Atlantic, the reigning American Athletic Conference Freshman of the Year, 15 points, 8 rebounds for him. He's a big guy. And you could tell there's some skill there. He's a bit slow. He's a bit uncoordinated. Obviously, Duke is a big step up from the teams he was going up against at FAU last season. If he can develop a few more moves down low, he can be a nice offensive piece, I think, for this Texas team moving forward. The biggest problems, though, for the Longhorns, outside of the lack of defending without fouling, Tremont Mark and Kendall Weaver, 2 of your starters, 2 of your 4 returnees from last year's squad, 2 guys who were supposed to be some of your best players this year. They combined for 5 points on just 2 of 7 shooting. Where was Tremont Mark last night? 2 points, 1 of 2 from the floor. This team starting point guard only had 1 assist. Texas has a team only 6 assists as well. That number's got to go way up. 6 assists on 19 made field goals. But, it's a problem for Texas. Something that was an issue last year. And it's something that I think could be a problem all season long. There's not a true point guard on this roster. There isn't. Jordan Pope's point guard size. You've got Simeon Wilcher, but I don't think either of those guys are like great, true, natural point guards. Tremont Mark late last season played a lot of point. Texas's offense was at its best when he was doing that, but it's not his natural position either. And last night, he didn't do anything. He looked like he didn't want to be there, which blows my mind. You're playing a team like Duke. It's your first game since the month of March. I don't know what happened to number 12 last night. He was a non-factor. And then Kendall Weaver, spent a ton of time this offseason working on his three-point shot. 0 of 3 from deep, 1 of 5 from the floor. We know he's not a great offensive piece, but he's got to give you more than 3 points if you're going to beat a team like Duke. So you got some good performances from some guys, but when 2 of the guys who, again, are supposed to be 2 of your biggest contributors just no-show and combine for 5 points, you're not going to beat a team as good as Duke, as simple as that. So I said it before the game. I'll say it after the game. It's one game. And today's November 5th. That game was played on November 4th. The season doesn't end until April. That'd be nice if Texas makes it to April, but you get my point. Long way to go. Should never put too much stock into this game. Texas will get better. A lot of new faces on this team. Obviously, a new coach. And the good news is the next 4 games, all here in Austin, all against teams that Texas should have no problem with. So an opportunity for guys to gel and get some confidence before this team makes the trip to Maui the week of Thanksgiving. So there you go. Texas loses by 15. They did not cover. Some good, some positive takeaways, but ultimately a double-digit loss to a very good Duke team. What say you? We'll take your thoughts below, your biggest takeaways and observations from this season opener. But that'll do it for today's show. If you made it this far, number one, thank you very much. God bless you. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all of those great things. Really appreciate y'all's continued support of Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have you covered. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. You can find them on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Plenty more Texas football conversation, maybe a few more Texas basketball takeaways coming up on tomorrow's show. But that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.